Welcome, my friends, to a new episode of Connect Your Speech. Well, in this episode, we're going to talk about a new phonological feature. We're going to talk about flapping. So first, let's see what flapping is, and let's also see how we can use it and when we can use it. Let's go. So let's check its definition, my friends. And it reads like this. Flapping or tapping, also known as alveolar flapping or T-voicing. So obviously, there are four names for this phenomenon. We can call it flapping, we can call it tapping, we can call it alveolar flapping, or we can call it T-voicing. But why alveolar flapping? Well, alveolar is the back of your teeth ridge. The upper teeth ridge. Here. Now, this place is called alveolar, and that's why we can call it alveolar flapping, which means that flapping usually happens at this area. We also call it T-voicing. And someone might ask, Shadi, why do we call it T-voicing? Now, let's think about it. T is a voiceless sound. And when I say it's a voiceless sound, it means that the vocal cords don't vibrate when we pronounce the T sound. And when I say T-voiced, it means that in this feature of connected speech, the T will change from a voiceless sound into a voiced sound. Now let's continue reading the definition. And it says, is a phonological process found in many varieties of English, especially North American, Cardiff, Ulster, Australian, and New Zealand English. Which means that somehow this is not very common in British English, right? Except for some areas. Lovely. Fine. Whereby the voiceless alveolar stop consonant phoneme T. Now let's talk about that. The voiceless, and we said that voiceless means that the vocal cords don't vibrate when pronouncing this sound. Alveolar, it means that this sound, which is the sound T, comes from here. And that's very true, because try to say it. T, T, T. Your tongue goes here. Lovely. Whereby the voiceless alveolar stop, and we say stop. Why do we say stop? Because look at how you pronounce it. T. So you stop the air and then you release it. That's why we call it stop. Now, consonant phoneme T is pronounced as a voiced alveolar flap. A voiced alveolar flap. So it's not even D. No, it's D. It's a quick flap, right? And that's why we call this feature flapping, because you change the T sound and you make it D. And D is lighter than D. It's lighter than it. Right. A sound produced by briefly tapping the alveolar ridge with the tongue when placed between vowels. And that's the definition of what we call, my friends, flapping. Right. Now, my friends, let's answer the following question. When does flapping occur? And it's a very, very important question here. So let's see. And I would say, the first scenario between two vowels, provided the second vowel is unstressed. So two vowels, the second is unstressed. Another scenario, between any two vowels, provided the second vowel begins a word. Wonderful. So one vowel is at the end of a word, and the other one is at the start of a word. Good. A third scenario. Within compound words. within compound words. Lovely. A fourth scenario. After the R sound. After the R sound. Interesting. Another scenario. Occasionally, after L, and this is more common in Canadian English than in American English. So this is more of a Canadian feature. Okay? And another scenario before syllabic L. Someone might say, Shadi, what is a syllabic L? A syllabic L is a L sound that cancels the schwa sound before it. Like what? Think of the word table. Table, table, bull, bull. So the L sound is preceded by a schwa sound. Then when I say that L can become syllabic in this word, the pronunciation will be as follows. Table, table. So the schwa kind of disappears before the syllabic L sound. So syllabic L is the one that cancels the schwa before it. Right. And the last scenario is before syllabic N in Australian English. So this is a kind of an Australian feature. Now let's go to the first scenario. Between two vowels, the second one is unstressed. Let's just start with the first word, which is letter. Letter. And again, we say it this way because the sound A in let, in that syllable, is stressed, while the schwa in the second syllable is unstressed. So that follows this scenario exactly. Another example, and look at this one. Better, better, better. Now, again, it's happening one more time. The first vowel is strong, while the second one is unstressed. And look at this. Riding, riding. We have I, strong diphthong, right? Strong vowel, while I, that's shorter and unstressed. Another example. Later, later, later. Again, happening. We've got A, strong. We've got weak, right? And one last example here. We've got meeting, meeting, meeting. Why? We've got E, strong, while I, unstressed. Ha ha ha. So, let's see some native speakers giving you examples on each of these words. Let's go.
I wrote this letter and I was like, will you tell me how to design my life? TED is about T-E-D. The D is about design, the designed life.
Like Air Force Technical Sergeant Jason Millen, who considered taking his own life, but who wrote me a letter.
But Nortier's son, Monsieur de Villefort, gets the letter first.
Smart drugs and mind-altering chemicals, both internal ones and external ones, that we can use to make well people better.
I trained as a cancer doctor, an oncologist, and I got into it because I wanted to help people feel better.
And blockchain is kind of neither of those things right now. So it's better suited for either really early adopters who kind of get it and can tinker around, or for finding those best use cases.
For me, going home meant returning to the work of writing because writing was my home. Because I loved writing more than I hated failing at writing, which is to say that I loved writing more than I loved my own ego, which is ultimately to say that I loved writing more than I loved myself.
I like to think so because I'm an optimist, Unlike Socrates, who felt that the invention of writing would atrophy our brains because we wouldn't have to remember anything if we wrote it down.
Then you will get what you want. And so I went on and I started writing down note cards, and I call them mental shortcuts, and I was reading these books, and then I started traveling. I went to 51 countries.
But Raisuddin lived. And years later, he would ask what he could do to repay his God.
So I said, will you help me design my life? And I was so excited. 4 days later, I got this letter back from my grandpa. I read it, and it said, sorry, Ty, I can't help you.
2 weeks later, the director came back and said, let's put in those few seconds of film.
So you want to go to that board meeting, but you only want to pay attention to the bits that interest you.
When cities interact, they interact like this. China and the US, despite the recent meta meeting in California.
We believe in taking care of each other and in lifting each other up and leaving no one behind and in meeting the collective responsibilities that we can only meet together.
Now let's move to this scenario here, which is between any two vowels now, provided the second vowel begins a word, which means that we have two words. The first one ends in a vowel plus t, and the second one starts with a vowel. Like what? Look at this. We've got wait and we've got in. When you put them together, in American English you can say wading, wading, wading. So it's not t anymore, it's d. Right, another example. Look at this. Get and over. Aha, and in American English it can be get over, get over, get over. Lovely. And then we have but and all. You put them together, but all, but all, but all. And you've got cut and out. Put them together, cut out, cut out, cut out. And we've got hate and it. Put them together, hated, hated, hated. Now let's go see some examples from native speakers. Let's go.
With the kind of Orwellian title, Migrant Protection Protocols, refugees are told they have to wait in Mexico while their cases make their way through the courts in the United States, and this can take months or years.
Now, some people don't like to wait in long queues, maybe overnight, even in the rain.
So that drug dealers could slide their boxes of cash into the bank more quickly and efficiently so they wouldn't have to wait online.
He found telemarketing work. Then he became an Olive Garden waiter, because where better to get over his fear of white people than the Olive Garden?
To you. So if you want to get over that one-itis for your celebrity crush, try diversifying the people that you follow online.
And yeah, President Trump signed it. And because we were able to do that, because we were able to kind of look at that shared humanity, get over our distaste for working across the aisle.
Right now we're in the hawkish phase. If we could just get over to the reformers, everything would be fine. No.
Right? Or we need to heal. We need to somehow find the cure and then we'll get over it.
But you get to decide how much. You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here.
But all that said, Node.js is not a silver bullet.
The ineffable is piercing a veil into something that we kind of can't explain but all experience.
Almost inevitably means that we will be cut out, or we will be deeply disadvantaged. Our businesses will be disadvantaged, our workers will be disadvantaged.
They even began calling him Le Cost Killer at Renault, thanks to his precise restructuring methods that cut out all the fat to maximize profits.
The two dominating materials for commercial printing were wood and metal.
Wood was cut out of the end pieces of hardwood.
Now, there seems to be a paradox when it comes to clickbait. People almost universally claim to hate it.
The thanks I hate it subreddit.
But I hate it when I am walking around or I'm on the subway.
Another scenario is inside compound words. Like what? Like, look at this. We've got whatever, whatever, whatever. Now, when we analyze it, we see that the first part of the compound word is what. It ends with a t. And the second one is ever. It starts with an e. Right? So you've got what, you've got vowel t, and the second word starts with an a. So usually in American English you would go like whatever, whatever. Now, more examples. Look at this. Quickly, sit in, sit in, sit in. Look at this. Bait and switch. And it will be bait and switch, bait and switch, bait and switch. And look at this. Beat and up. Put them together. Beat up, beat up, beat up. And the last one, Bright and eyed. Put them together. Bright-eyed, bright-eyed, bright-eyed. Let's see some examples from native speakers. Let's go.
It's giving you information that may not even make intellectual sense. Do this, go there, quit your job, take an airplane, fly across the world, whatever.
What would be your prescription by 2020 or whatever date you want to set to banishing cancer?
So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever.
Justified anger in the form of a protest, a sit-in.
I would term what happened on April 25th around Zhongnanhai more of like a sit-in or an appeal than necessarily a protest.
There was a sit-in in the president's office, and they didn't call in the police, unlike Harvard.
I have to really stress that it's the importance of counseling, because there are schools that will bait and switch students, and they're just looking to fill seats.
And it's not even trusting of, like the kinds of obfuscation and the bait and switch, all of these other, mechanisms of this other mode of speech.
And we'll take a moment and pray with you and send you home with some material that'll help you. No tricks, no bait and switch, nothing. We just want to help you.
This is essentially the pointy part of the jet. This is an old one that's kind of beat up, but if you look at the end of it, there's a little bitty hole.
I've healed myself of chronic pain. I healed myself of food allergies. Hey, yeah, I was abused as a child. Yeah, that's right. I was beat up by a violent father, and I lived in vulnerability and fear.
Ooh, some green tea from Witter, Chelsea. It's a little bit beat up, but we need a little green tea to keep us going.
She was not calling anyone a name. She was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
And consequently, our kids are not only having fewer seizures and shorter seizures, they're also bright-eyed and happy children again. They're no longer little zombies.
When I look at some of our poorest and most vulnerable communities, I think that there's so much untapped potential in those children. When you look at them, they're bright-eyed, they're smart, they're full of energy.
Now another scenario which is after the rah sound. And we see it in words like bardi, bardi, pardi, and fordi, 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 and artist, 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 and charter, 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 and finally mardi, mardi, mardi. Okay. Let's see some examples from native speakers. Let's go.
Lushkov, 20 years mayor in Moscow, though he helped found a party, United Party, with Putin, in fact, refused to be defined by the party, and finally, in fact, lost his job, not under Brezhnev, not under Gorbachev, but under Putin, who wanted a more faithful party follower.
Now, race is one of those topics in America that makes people extraordinarily uncomfortable. You bring it up at a dinner party or in a workplace environment, it is literally the conversational equivalent of touching the third rail.
Most of them were just your typical party photo.
However, if you want to dine out and you're a woman, you're going to spend 136 days of your life, which is a lot compared to the 46 days that guys take just getting ready.
In 2014, Chris and Markela Sorvelis' son sold $40 worth of drugs down the street from their house. $40.
Or it seems that for every slot at Success, there's something like 40 students
there 6 to 1. There are 6 more applicants for every seat than entering the lottery than ultimately end up getting placed.
If we only admitted a modest number of low-skill immigrants, say as political refugees, we could easily handle it. But over the past 40 years, we have allowed millions of low-skill immigrants into the country, both legally and illegally.
Seattle, Washington. And I grew up with a family of great Seattleites. My mother was an artist, my father was a college professor, and I am truly grateful for my upbringing.
When I first started making films and television commercials, I never saw another woman's face. Occasionally I would see a script supervisor, maybe there was a makeup and hair artist, but other than that, it was just me and a bunch of guys.
I'm Alexander Hefner, your host on The Open Mind. Multi-million album-selling artist Moby, yes, that renegade genre-defining musician, joins us today.
And it took me a day and a half to get back. We actually had to charter a plane. We couldn't use our own company plane.
Washington Latin Public Charter School. Are you here? Let's hear from you a little bit. A little cheer. There we go.
A lot of the attention has been paid to the so-called inversion transactions, where an existing company basically swaps its U.S. charter for a foreign charter, arranges it so that the parent of a new corporate group has a piece of paper from a foreign country instead of a U.S. company.
I had been reading a lot of books and sort of was interested in Marty Zweig, who's a sort of a famous guy who is some trend-based and sentiment-based.
But camcorders themselves could be very, very small. The first video movie is somewhat famous, as this is what Marty McFly uses to videotape Doc in Back to the Future.
And we'll be taking questions from those of you watching online. Dr. Marty, welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Now, another scenario is before syllabic L. And as we said, a syllabic L is a less sound that would cancel the schwa before it. Let's see. Look at this. So we can say bottle, bottle, bottle. We can say kittle, kittle, kittle. We can say Seattle, Seattle, Seattle. We can say beetle, beetle, beetle. We can say rattle, rattle, rattle. Lovely. Let's see some examples from native speakers. Let's go.
We usually don't care for, repair, clean, carry around our coffee cup, our shopping bag, our bottle of water. We use them, we throw them out, we forget about them, because we know there's a workforce on the other side that's going to take it all away.
So I'm on a mission to bottle these great work practices and not go back to the old ways.
In the early 1900s, before it was appropriated by Hitler, it was used by Coca-Cola on a Good Luck bottle opener.
The only reason I'm not on Warzone is because I had to, come kick it with my dog Kittle and Cam J. You know what I'm talking about? As soon as I hang this up, I'm going straight back.
The nominees for the Male Athlete of the Year award are Britton Kittle, baseball, Ben Sosa, basketball, and Jared Mooney, wrestling.
We implemented this checklist in 8 hospitals around the world, deliberately in places from rural Tanzania to the University of Washington in Seattle.
See, when I was a kid growing up in Seattle, I remember the first time I saw real poverty.
For 10 years, I can count on one hand the number of senior women over 50 in executive positions that I saw. Whether it was Seattle or Dubai, Lagos, or upstate New York, women were scarce at the top.
But in the process, I also applied to graduate school and ended up falling for the charms of Seattle.
Some other creatures love hot weather. Unfortunately, many of them are pests, like the Colorado potato beetle, the European grapevine moth, and a nasty wheat blight called FHB, or Fusarium head blight.
For example, this is a beetle that was devastating crops, and they blamed it on the American beetle, America bogar.
So this is going to be, it's holding good promise for research in different areas. And this was actually Darwin's beetle collection.
Tilting its back end toward its aggressor, the beetle fires explosive pulses of boiling hot toxic liquid. The beetle's abdomen contains 2 separate chambers storing hydroquinones and hydrogen peroxide, respectively.
Of his?
Yeah.
No, he used to saber rattle a little about it. I'm smarter than these guys and I can do a better job.
Are a function of how long a person has been away, what kind of challenges they faced before they left. To rattle off a few, reuniting with family.
This amounted to almost 10,000 hours of research, something that would take a single researcher almost 5 years to match. But it did rattle a few cages because it presented a new model for research.
Now let's move to this scenario here, which is occasionally after le. And again, we said that this happens more in Canadian English than American English. Like, let's see, like we have here faculty, 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 right? Let's go and see some examples from native speakers.
So what has helped me just as much as the curriculum, the fantastic faculty, has also been the community that has naturally built up at CGU.
I truly believe the Eyes of Texas can be a force for unity among our students, faculty, staff, and alumni.
We've created this welcome message to introduce you to the School of Medicine deans who collaborate with our faculty and medical education staff to create an exceptional educational experience for you and your peers as you learn, grow, and thrive.
Now, last week was our October Board of Trustees meeting, and we had a robust constituent conversation with the Faculty Council on the future of work.
He is also a faculty member of the Shorenstein Asia Pacific Research Center at Stanford,
which is a global network of universities and administrators and staff and faculty and students who say, we share this vision of a university that serves the public good, that uses that freedom responsibly to engage with truth and difficult questions to try to help society.
I had been at the NYU Stern School of Business, where I earned my MBA. Shortly after finishing my MBA, I was appointed to the faculty, not a pathway very many MBA students aspire to.
Now, the last scenario here in today's episode is before syllabic n in Australian English. And a syllabic n is like a syllabic le. It also cancels the schwa before it. That's why we call it syllabic n. So, let's see. Right, and we've got here cotton, 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 and mountain, 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 and ridden, 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 and modern, modern, modern. Let's go and see some examples from Australian English.
My name is Sophie Cotton and I'm studying a double degree in biomedical science and law, and I've just finished my second year here at Southern Cross University, and it has been a fascinating whirlwind of 2 years.
The last stop is Kuranda, a quaint and artistic mountain village. In 1951, the Festival of Britain was staged to celebrate national recovery,
and found that one was in fact 100% lamb, whereas the other 9 had various combinations of mutton, beef, turkey, chicken, and in one case 100% pork.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this episode of Connect Your Speech. And hey, don't forget subscribing to the channel, sharing these videos, spreading knowledge. Thank you so much for watching the channel, and see you again. Bye-bye.